Hello everyone, I've been playing around and experimenting with Aspire. So if you've never heard of Aspire, it's basically a platform that allows you to work seamlessly with distributed applications. Let's take a look at the documentation and let's click on what is Aspire. Let's see. It streamlines building, running, debugging and deploying distributed apps, and that's basically what it does. It allows for seamless development, testing, deploying, and monitoring of distributed applications. Let's see what they say here. Picture your app as a set of services, databases, and frontends. When they are deployed, they all work together seamlessly. But every time you develop them, they need to be individually started and connected. With Aspire, you get a unified toolchain that eliminates complex configuration and makes local debugging effortless. Instantly launch and debug your entire application with a single command. So Aspire lets you publish anywhere, Kubernetes, the cloud, your own servers. It's also fully extensible so you can integrate your favorite tools and services with ease. Okay. I think Aspire's documentation can explain what Aspire is way better than I can, but what I'm going to show you today is basic e-commerce system that I've built, distributed system that consists of a few microservices that communicate with each other, and everything is glued together using Aspire. For that, first I'm going to show you an architecture diagram that shows what I've built. You have a web application, which is our UI, and you'll see that in a second. And then we have a few microservices. We have a payments microservice, orders microservice, notifications, invoice, catalog, shipping, and cart microservice. I know we can add more, but after all, this is a demo. It's not a real e-commerce system, but the idea is to just get the hang of it and see what Aspire can do for you. And I personally think Aspire is pretty cool. Now, the flow here. What I'm going to show you is this. So we have a catalog with all the items in it. For example, t-shirts, jackets, you name it. You can add items to your cart, which for that we're using Redis. And then once you check out, you need to pay first. We provide some card details, we click pay. And if the payment is successful, we create a new order using the order microservice, which has its own order database. So we store the order, and then the order microservice publishes an event, order created. And then all the subscribers, everyone who is interested, every service that's interested in this event subscribes and acts accordingly. For example, when the order is created, invoice microservice will generate invoice, and the catalog microservice will update the inventory. Shipping will start the shipping process, will clear the cart, the shopping cart, and will send an email to the user. Let's first see that flow in action. And by the way, for that communication, I'm using NServiceBus, a paid solution, but it's free for you as long as your solution is not deployed to production. So you can play around with it. You can experiment with it. You can use it on dev, QA, UAT, you name it. As long as your solution is not deployed to production, it's free for you. Now, let's open this solution here, which contains the cart, catalog, invoice, notifications, orders, payments, services. We have shipping. We have some shared stuff here. For example, I've built really basic mediator because I just didn't want to use the mediator. I have a shared library for the messages that I want. For example, order created event is here, so each service can use this one, so they are shared. And we have the web application, which is pretty basic. So we have cart page, catalog, invoice, orders, payments, shipping, so that we can track all this. Okay, let's click on run now. And this is where the magic of Aspire comes in. You don't have, for example, an amount of console applications equal to the number of microservices that you have. In this case, we have 6, 7 microservices. We have a single console application, which is pretty amazing. And we have a dashboard. And here is our solution basically, and all the services in it. So we have the cart cache, which is the Redis. We have messaging, which is the using RabbitMQ and the different databases for each microservice. And we have all the microservices here, as well as our web app. Everything is here. We can stop, we can start each one of them. We can see the console for each service. So for example, if we click on orders, we see the orders console app. So yeah, we can check logs, open telemetry, we have metrics, everything within the same dashboard. You have a single place where you can track your solution, which is awesome. You don't have to go to 10 different places to track stuff. And imagine if your application is really big, distributed system, you get the idea. This can become a nightmare pretty fast. And I'll show you in a second, for example, what happens if some service crashes. You immediately see it in here. Let's go to our web application now. And here it is. It's pretty basic application. We have 3 pages here: catalog, cart, and invoices. And here's our catalog. We have a hat, a jacket, and a t-shirt. Let's add a few hats, a few jackets, and 1 t-shirt. Okay, let's go to cart. This is our total. So now I'm not going to remove any items. Actually, I like what I've chosen. So I'll order this now by clicking pay now. I'll provide all the data here, which is dummy data, of course, and I'll click proceed to checkout. If we go to the diagram again, this is where we at the moment. We're here when in the payments microservice. So once I click proceed to checkout, it will synchronously make a payment request to the service, whatever that service is. And if it's successful, it will create a new order by calling the order microservice. Once the order is created in the database, it will push an event, order created. And from there, a few things will happen. We'll receive an email, invoice will be created, the shipping process will start, the cart will be cleared. Let's click on proceed to checkout. Okay, so our cart is empty now. Let's take a look at the invoice now. But for some reason, I'm not seeing the bill here. Let's see what's going on here. Let's go to the dashboard. We see some logs here in the orders microservice, and we have an exception here. Let's see what this exception is all about. Let's see the error message in the stack trace, and it's related to the on behalf of flow. And I know what this error means. So basically, if we go under orders, if we go under commands, where it's a create order handler, you see that we are trying to get a token for the cart API using the user's credentials. But the user haven't consented or accepted this. So to fix that, there are a few options, but in our case, we'll go under orders application, under API permissions, and we'll add another permission, which is for the cart service. And it's a delegated permission. Let's add this scope here. And don't forget to add the consent for this tenant. Okay, let's try again. Go to catalog. Let's add a few items. Let's see how many hats. I love hats. Some jackets, some t-shirts. Let's see, a total of $290. Let's click pay now. I'll provide some dummy data again. Okay, let's click proceed. Let's go to invoices. And here's our invoice. Now everything works as expected. We had a successful payment. We've created a new order in the database, and then we published an event, order created. So this then is being consumed by a few microservices. Invoice, as we saw, shipping, cart microservice, and notifications. So for notifications, I'm using a service called MailTrap. And as you can see, from a minute ago, I have a new email. And it says that we're preparing your order for shipping. Okay, let's now quickly take a look at the code. And the magic really happens inside of this app host here. Basically, this C# file describes our application. So here we have a RabbitMQ. Here is how we're defining that. Then this is how we define the SQL server that I'm using. Here is how we define the Redis cache. And here we start defining the microservices. So for example, the catalog microservice, first, we're creating a database for it called catalogdb. And then we're creating the service itself. We're naming it catalog, and this is important, and I'll show you why in a second. And then we're referencing the catalogdb and saying that we should wait for the catalogdb to be instantiated before running catalog microservice, because we want our database to be provisioned before we run the microservice itself. And the same thing for the messaging here. We want the RabbitMQ to be up and running before we start the microservice, the catalog microservice. And it's basically the same for cart, payments, orders. So for the orders microservice, to be able to access the cart microservice, here we are adding a direct call to the microservice, and I'll show you how. And then we have invoices, same, shipping, notifications. And then here is how we define our web app, which basically needs all of the microservices here, because when we click on invoices page or catalog page or cart page, we're making calls to those APIs from within the front-end web application. Okay, so what about these here? Cart, catalog. Well, they are important. If we go under web, under program CS, you see how we're defining the HTTP client here. So we're providing some name, and then for the URI, we are not providing any specific endpoint here. This is based on convention from Aspire. So we're saying use HTTPS or HTTP, and the endpoint is catalog. And that behind the scenes uses the service discovery of Aspire, and it figures out on its own what is the endpoint of this catalog microservice. We don't have to know it up front, which is great. So there is a built-in service discovery in here. And it's the same for each one of them. And you remember the issue that we had in the beginning? Well, it was because of these two lines of code. I forgot to add, I didn't forget to add, I wanted to show you the error handling in the dashboard of Aspire. So that's the reason. These two lines of code, I didn't add the scope in the orders API to be able to call the cart API. So anyways, that's how we do it. We get a token for that scope and that API, and then we add it as a bearer token. And then we basically call the cart API to get data from it. And everything else, it's pretty basic. And this is how we publish events. So once we create the order, once inserted in the database, then we send an event. And this is not a great option. There are a few better options out there, Saga, for example. But I really want to keep this demo simple. And the idea is to show you Aspire. It's not about any sophisticated designs or architecture. It's just to show you Aspire using a real application. So it's not like some theory. It's a real application. And I'll share the code with you. And I'll keep updating the code, by the way, because I want to add a lot of things that I have in mind and change a lot of things. And at the end, I want to be able to deploy this to Azure. Right now, I am not able to, I think, because I need to configure that. But I'll do that, and I'll probably make another video when I'm done. But that's basically it. If we're talking about software architecture, well, I'm using a clean architecture with some commands and queries. I have an event handler which comes from NServiceBus. So NServiceBus figures out on its own which are the subscribers of particular event. Here's how I add the NServiceBus in here, so it's used everywhere in each service like that. We provide a name and the rest is the same. They all use RabbitMQ as that's the broker that we configured. I hope you like this quick demo. If you're interested in Aspire, I strongly suggest that you spend some time experimenting with it. I really find it useful because, as you can see, let's say this is a real system, let's say this is some e-commerce solution. Well, I can easily, let's say I start working on this project, I'm a new developer. Well, I can just clone the solution on my machine and I'm sure it will work because behind the scenes, this is using Docker. Each service is containerized. Once a developer clones this solution, it will work. And then there won't be this, it works on my machine, but it doesn't work on this person's machine. No. So it will work and it will make a developer's life easier. And Aspire dashboard, really good. You can have this one single source of truth sort of thing where you can monitor your services, stop them, start them. You can do a lot of stuff using just the dashboard. You don't have to wander around anymore, You just need the dashboard and you can figure out a lot of the issues that will be happening in a distributed system. Okay, I hope you liked this walkthrough. If you found this useful, you can subscribe, share this video with others. Take care.